Life has a funny way of proving that success isn't everything. There I was, sitting in my corner office on the 12th floor of the Riverfront Park Tower in Spokane, staring at engagement metrics that would make any social media manager drool. My team had just landed another major account, a luxury car dealership chain that would add 6 figures to our annual revenue. Yet, something felt missing. I took a sip of my now cold coffee and pulled up Instagram, mindlessly scrolling through perfectly curated posts from our clients. This was my domain. I, Scarlett Brown, had built a reputation as the go-to social media strategist in the Pacific Northwest. My dark hair was always perfectly styled, my blue eyes enhanced by designer frames, and my wardrobe carefully selected to project success. But today, like many days lately, it all felt like another carefully curated post. "Scarlett, the Miller account numbers are in," my assistant Sarah called from the doorway. "They're up 40% from last quarter." "Great," I muttered, not looking up from my screen. "Send me the full report." The truth was, I had mastered the art of making others look interesting while my own life had become a vacuum of meaningful connections. My apartment, though stylishly furnished, felt more like a hotel room than a home. The only consistent relationship I maintained was with my laptop and the endless stream of social media feeds I managed. The notification sound from my phone cut through my self-pity. It was an email from the Spokane Community Center, something about their annual spring activities program. I was about to swipe it away when a particular event caught my eye. Strategic Minds Chess Tournament, all skill levels welcome. I hadn't played chess since college, where I'd been decent enough to win a few casual games. But what made me pause wasn't nostalgia, it was the promise of real, face-to-face interaction. Something that didn't involve likes, shares, or carefully crafted captions. "Sarah," I called out, "clear my schedule for next Saturday afternoon." The whole afternoon. She appeared in my doorway looking concerned. "But the pitch for—" "Just do it," I interrupted, already filling out the tournament registration form. "I'm taking up chess." The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and content approvals. As I packed up my laptop that evening, I caught my reflection in the office windows. Behind the professional facade, I saw something I hadn't noticed in a while, a spark of anticipation. Walking to my car in the underground parking garage, my heels clicking against the concrete, I felt almost foolish. Here I was, a successful 32-year-old woman, getting excited about a community chess tournament. But something about it felt right. Maybe it was time to make a move that wasn't just strategic for my career. Back home, I dug out an old chess set from my closet and set up the pieces on my dining table. The familiar weight of the queen piece in my hand brought back memories of late-night games in the college common room. As I moved pieces around the board, practicing openings I barely remembered, I realized this was the first thing I'd done in months that wasn't somehow connected to work or social media. Later that night, as I lay in bed scrolling through chess tutorials on YouTube, I couldn't shake the feeling that signing up for this tournament was more than just a whim. It felt like the first move in a game I didn't yet understand. Little did I know, it would turn out to be the best decision I'd made in years. The community center buzzed with an energy I hadn't expected. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating dozens of chessboards arranged on folding tables. I adjusted my casual blazer, feeling oddly nervous. This was different from my usual business presentations. Here, I couldn't hide behind PowerPoint slides or engagement metrics. "Table 6, the coordinator said, checking my registration. "You're playing white." I found my assigned spot and sat down, arranging the white pieces with careful precision. That's when she walked in. Later, I would learn her name was Imogen Young, but in that moment, she was simply the most striking opponent I'd ever faced across a chessboard. She moved with the kind of confidence that usually takes years to cultivate. Her blonde hair caught the morning light, and her green eyes held mine as she extended her hand. "Looks like we're opponents," she said, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. "I'm Imogen." "Scarlett," I managed, hoping my handshake wasn't as clammy as it felt. "Been playing long?" "Long enough to be dangerous," she smiled, settling into her chair. Something about her presence made the room feel smaller, more intimate despite the crowd around us. The game began, and I quickly realized she hadn't been joking about being dangerous. She played with an aggressive style that kept me constantly on the defensive. Every move seemed calculated to push me into a corner, yet there was something playful in her strategy. "Social media manager, right?" she asked casually, capturing my night. "I think I've seen your work." I looked up, surprised. "How did you?" "I'm an influencer," she explained, watching me contemplate my next move. "Your campaigns for the downtown shopping district caught my attention. Very clever use of micro-influencers." My hand hesitated over a pawn. Here was someone who understood my world, yet chose to meet people over chess rather than screens. "Thanks," I said, finally moving my piece. Though right now, I'm wishing I'd spent more time practicing chess instead of crafting social media strategies. She laughed, a sound that made several other players glance our way. "Don't sell yourself short. This is the most interesting game I've had in weeks." The match continued, our conversation flowing naturally between moves. I learned she had started as a fashion blogger before transitioning to lifestyle content. She spoke about algorithms and engagement rates with the same enthusiasm she showed for chess strategy. "Checkmate," she declared finally, though not unkindly, but only just barely. I studied the board, admiring the elegant trap she'd laid several moves back. "Well played. I definitely need more practice." "How about coffee?" she suggested, standing up. "There's this great little place around the corner. We can analyze the game, talk shop about social media, or both." My heart did a little skip. I'd like that. As we packed up our pieces, I caught her stealing glances at me, just as I was trying not to stare at her. There was something magnetic about her presence, something that made me want to know more. The walk to the coffee shop was short, but long enough for me to notice how her smile changed when she talked about her work, how she gestured expressively with her hands, how she seemed completely comfortable in her own skin. "You know," she said as we waited in line, "I have a feeling this is the beginning of a very interesting rivalry." "Rivalry?" I raised an eyebrow. "I just lost rather spectacularly." "True," she grinned. "But something tells me you're the type who learns from their defeats. Besides, chess is just one kind of game." The way she said it made me wonder if we were still talking about chess at all. As we found a table by the window, I realized that for the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about work, or followers, or engagement rates. I was simply present, enjoying the company of someone who seemed to see right through my carefully constructed professional facade. The afternoon stretched into evening, and one coffee turned into two. We talked about everything and nothing, and when we finally exchanged numbers, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Walking back to my car, I couldn't help smiling. I'd lost the chess match, but somehow felt like I'd won something far more valuable. The game, it seemed, was just beginning. Over the next few weeks, our chess matches became a ritual I lived for. Every Saturday afternoon, Imogen and I would meet at the community center, our games growing longer and more intricate as I improved. But it was more than just chess. Between moves, we shared stories, dreams, and an increasing number of lingering glances. "Your social media strategy is evolving," Imogen noted one Saturday, studying the board. "I've been watching your clients' accounts. That influencer campaign for the art gallery was inspired." I moved my bishop, trying not to show how pleased I was that she'd noticed. "I may have borrowed some ideas from watching how you engage with your followers." She smiled, that radiant smile that always made me lose my train of thought. "Careful, Scarlett, if you keep studying my techniques so closely, people might start talking." The way she said it made my cheeks flush. We'd been dancing around this growing tension between us for weeks now. Every casual touch, every shared laugh, felt charged with something more. "Let them talk," I replied, surprising myself with my boldness. "I learn from the best." Our weekly games had expanded beyond chess. We'd started meeting for coffee beforehand, discussing everything from business strategies to personal philosophies. Imogen had a way of challenging my perspectives while making me feel completely at ease. "You know what I admire about you?" she said one afternoon, as rain drummed against the community center windows. "You're not afraid to take risks, even when they might not pay off." I laughed, watching her capture another of my pawns. Says the woman who just trapped my queen. "I'm not talking about chess." Her green eyes met mine. "I've seen how you've been pushing boundaries lately, both professionally and personally." She was right. Since meeting her, I'd found myself taking more chances, being more authentic in my approach to both work and life. My clients had noticed too, praising the fresh energy in their campaigns. That particular game ended differently than our others. As we packed up the pieces, our hands brushed, and neither of us pulled away immediately. The moment stretched between us, filled with unspoken possibilities. "Want to grab dinner?" I asked, my heart racing. "There's this new place downtown I've been wanting to try." Her smile was soft, knowing. "I'd love to." The restaurant was intimate, with candlelit tables and quiet corners. We talked about everything and nothing, our conversation flowing as naturally as it always did. But there was an undercurrent of anticipation, a sense that something was shifting between us. Walking back to our cars, Imogen stopped suddenly under a street lamp. "You know, for someone who manages social media, you're surprisingly real," she said. "No filters, no carefully curated persona." "Only with you," I admitted, the words slipping out before I could stop them. She stepped closer, her perfume mingling with the crisp evening air. "I like that about you," she whispered. And then she was kissing me, soft and sure, like she'd been waiting to do it for weeks. Time seemed to stop, the world narrowing to just this moment, just us. When we finally pulled apart, I could see my own wonder reflected in her eyes. "I've been wanting to do that since our first chess match," she confessed, her fingers still intertwined with mine. "Even though I lost so badly?" "Especially because you lost so gracefully," she laughed. And then came back the next week, determined to do better. That kiss changed everything and nothing. Our weekly chess matches continued, but now they were infused with a new energy, a deeper understanding. We still talked strategy and social media, but our conversations carried more weight, more meaning. As spring deepened into summer, I found myself falling not just for Imogen's brilliant mind and strategic thinking, but for the way she saw the world, the way she made me see myself. Each game became a metaphor for our growing relationship, full of careful advances, calculated risks, and moments of pure, unexpected joy. The community center became our sanctuary, the chessboard our shared language. And somewhere between the opening moves and the endgame, I realized I was playing for much higher stakes than just winning or losing. I was playing for the chance at something real, something that couldn't be captured in any social media post or carefully crafted campaign. The lines between professional and personal began to blur the day Imogen asked for my help with her brand strategy. We were in my office after hours, spreadsheets and analytics reports scattered across my desk. The setting sun cast long shadows through the windows, painting everything in warm golden hues. "My engagement rates have plateaued," she explained, running a hand through her blonde hair. "I need fresh eyes, someone who understands both the numbers and the narrative." I tried to focus on the statistics in front of me but found myself distracted by how close she was sitting, the familiar scent of her perfume making it hard to concentrate. "Your content is solid," I said, scrolling through her Instagram feed. "But there's untapped potential in your storytelling approach." We spent hours dissecting her social media presence, developing new content strategies. As the night wore on, we ordered takeout and moved to the office couch, laptops balanced on our knees. The formal business discussion gradually shifted into something more intimate. "You're different when you talk about strategy," Imogen observed, setting aside her empty container. "Your eyes light up, like during our chess games. Is that a bad thing?" "No," she smiled, reaching over to brush a strand of hair from my face. "It's actually quite captivating." The casual touch sent electricity through my body. We'd been dating for weeks now, but these moments still caught me off guard. The professional facade I'd carefully maintained began to crack. "We should probably focus on your content calendar," I said, trying to maintain some semblance of professionalism. "Probably," she agreed, but made no move to return to work. Instead, she closed her laptop and set it aside. "But I'm more interested in the person behind the strategy right now." The air between us grew thick with tension. My office, usually a space of strict business conduct, suddenly felt like the most intimate place in the world. When she kissed me, it was different from our previous kisses, more urgent, more demanding. We spent the next few days developing her new brand strategy, meeting late into the evening after my regular clients were handled. Each session was a delicate dance between professional collaboration and personal connection. The strategies we created were some of my best work, fueled by our unique understanding of each other. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. One evening, as we reviewed analytics together, a notification popped up on my phone, a message from a competing influencer wanting to work with my agency. "Bailey Martinez?" Imogen's voice carried an edge I hadn't heard before. "She's been trying to copy my content style for months." "It's just business." I said carefully, though I could feel the tension rising. I haven't agreed to anything. Just business, she repeated, standing up from the couch. Like us working together is just business? The question hung in the air between us. We both knew we'd crossed that line weeks ago, but neither of us had fully addressed the implications. You know it's not the same, I finally said, reaching for her hand. What we have. It's more than strategy and statistics. She softened, intertwining her fingers with mine. I know, I've worked so hard to build my brand, to make it authentic. The thought of sharing you, professionally. Hey, I pulled her closer. My professional expertise might be for hire, but my heart isn't. The confession slipped out naturally, and for a moment I worried it was too much, too soon. But Imogen's response was to kiss me with such intensity that all thoughts of business and competition vanished. Later that night, as we finally packed up to leave, the city lights twinkling outside my office windows, I realized how completely this woman had transformed my world. What had started as a professional courtesy had evolved into something far more significant. Same time tomorrow? She asked, lingering in the doorway. For strategy or for us? Both, she smiled. Always both. As I watched her leave, I understood that we were playing a different kind of game now, one where the rules were still being written, and the stakes were higher than ever. The challenge would be maintaining the balance between our professional and personal lives, but something told me it would be worth every calculated risk. The idea hit me during one of our late-night strategy sessions. Imogen was explaining the nuances of live streaming when I interrupted her mid-sentence. What if I started streaming chess? She paused, green eyes sparkling with interest. You mean like actually playing online? More than that, I explained, the concept taking shape as I spoke. I could combine chess strategy with social media insights, teaching while playing, building a unique brand. The truth was, I wanted to understand her world better, to share something that had brought us together. But I never expected what happened next. My first stream was awkward, filled with technical glitches and nervous laughter, but something about my approach, teaching social media strategy through chess metaphors, resonated with viewers. Maybe it was my corporate background mixed with genuine passion, or perhaps the novelty of a social media expert fumbling through online chess matches. You're trending, Imogen announced one morning, bursting into my office. Your clip about comparing pawn structure to content pillars just went viral. Within weeks, my channel exploded. What started as an attempt to get closer to Imogen had transformed into a phenomenon. Brands began reaching out, wanting to sponsor streams. Chess.com featured my content. The irony wasn't lost on me, that in trying to understand her world, I'd accidentally carved out my own corner of it. You're a natural, Imogen said one evening, watching me wrap up a stream from my home office. She'd been staying over more frequently, our personal and professional lives becoming increasingly intertwined. But success brought complications. My newfound visibility meant more scrutiny, more demands on my time. Some of my corporate clients expressed concern about my online presence affecting their brand image. The real challenge came when a major chess platform offered to sponsor both Imogen and me for a series of collaborative streams. The opportunity was incredible, but it would mean revealing more of our personal connection than we'd planned. We don't have to do it, I told her, as we lay in bed one night, the moonlight casting shadows across her face. We can keep things separate. She propped herself up on one elbow, studying me. Is that what you want? The question hung between us, heavy with implications. Our relationship had grown deeper, more intense, but we'd kept it mostly private, sharing only glimpses with our online audiences. No, I admitted finally. I'm tired of compartmentalizing. You're too important to keep hidden. Her response was passionate, immediate. The kiss she gave me spoke volumes about her own feelings on the matter. That night, we made love with an intensity that left us both breathless, the decision feeling more right with every touch. Every whispered word of affection. The next morning, we filmed our first collaborative content. The chemistry between us was undeniable, even through the lens of chess strategy and social media tips. Comments poured in, viewers picking up on the subtle glances, the easy familiarity. They love us together, Imogen said, scrolling through the responses. Though I think they're more interested in our relationship than our chess skills. It was true. Our audiences were merging, growing, creating a community around not just our content but our connection. The authenticity we'd worried about preserving had become our biggest asset. But with visibility came vulnerability. Not everyone celebrated our success or our relationship. Some followers unfollowed, some brands distanced themselves. Yet for every loss, we gained something more valuable, a growing tribe of supporters who appreciated our genuine approach. As my channel continued to grow, I found myself navigating the strange space between being a social media manager and becoming a social media personality. Imogen helped, guiding me through the transition with the same patience she'd shown during our first chess matches. "Remember," she said one evening, as I fretted over analytics, "the numbers aren't the whole story. Your authenticity is what brought us together. Don't lose that chasing metrics." She was right, of course. In trying to get closer to her world, I'd created something unique, something that was changing both our lives in unexpected ways. The game had evolved far beyond what I'd imagined. But with Imogen by my side, I was ready to play it all the way through. Fame hit differently than I expected. One morning, while getting coffee at my usual spot, the barista asked for a selfie. By afternoon, 3 different strangers had recognized me from my chess streams. My carefully structured world of managing other people's social media presence had morphed into something entirely new. Imogen found it amusing. "Welcome to my world," she said, watching me navigate a crowd of fans at a local tech convention. Though I never expected chess to be your ticket to internet stardom. Our channels were growing rapidly but in different directions. While my content focused on strategy and business metaphors, Imogen's lifestyle content had evolved to include more personal elements. The contrast created an unexpected tension. "Your latest video about queen sacrifices and brand positioning got more views than my entire wellness series," she mentioned one evening, her tone carefully neutral. We were in her apartment, takeout containers scattered between us. "It's just algorithm luck," I said, reaching for her hand. But we both knew it wasn't that simple. The dynamics between us were shifting professionally and personally. The breaking point came during a joint live stream. We were playing chess while discussing content strategy, our usual format, when a viewer asked about our relationship. Before I could deflect, Imogen answered honestly about our connection. The chat exploded. "You shouldn't have done that," I said afterward, pacing her living room. "We agreed to keep things professional online." "Professional?" She stood up, eyes flashing. "Scarlett, everyone can see the way we look at each other on stream. We're not fooling anyone." "That's not the point. My corporate clients..." "Damn your corporate clients." The force of her words stopped me mid-stride. "Is that all you care about? The perfect image?" The argument escalated quickly, years of social media expertise clashing with raw emotional authenticity. Words were thrown like chess pieces in a lost game, each hitting their mark with painful accuracy. "You're just afraid," she finally said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Afraid of being real, of letting people see who you really are. And you're too ready to share everything." I shot back. "Not everything needs to be content, Imogen." She stepped closer, the anger in her eyes mixing with something else. "No, but some things are worth sharing. Some things are too important to hide." The tension between us crackled like electricity. One moment we were arguing, the next she was pushing me against the wall, her lips finding mine with desperate intensity. The kiss was different from our others, raw and urgent, full of all the emotions we'd been trying to contain. Hours later, tangled in her sheets, the city lights twinkling through her bedroom window, we finally talked properly. About fears, about boundaries, about finding balance in this new reality we'd created. "I'm sorry," I murmured, tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. "You're right, I've been hiding behind professionalism because it feels safer." She turned to face me, her expression soft in the dim light. "And I'm sorry for pushing too hard. We can find a middle ground." The next morning we filmed a different kind of video. No chess metaphors, no business strategies, just us being honest about navigating relationship and career in the digital age. It was terrifying and liberating in equal measure. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from followers sharing similar experiences, thanking us for our honesty. Even some of my corporate clients reached out with unexpected support. "See?" Imogen said, reading through the comments. "Sometimes the best moves are the ones that feel the riskiest." She was right. In chess, as in life, the most powerful plays often require vulnerability. We'd found our way through this mid-game crisis, emerging stronger, more united. The game was far from over, but we were learning to play it together, on our own terms. That evening, we streamed another chess match, more relaxed, more authentic. The viewer count hit record numbers, but for once, I wasn't watching the metrics. I was too busy enjoying the game, and the woman across the board who'd taught me that some things are worth more than perfect strategy. Privacy became our most precious commodity as our online presence grew. Every coffee date, every casual touch, every shared glance became potential content for eager followers to dissect. We found ourselves creating elaborate strategies just to carve out moments of genuine connection. "Let's go offline for the weekend," Imogen suggested one rainy Friday evening. We were in my apartment, the sound of raindrops creating a cozy barrier between us and the digital world outside. No streams, no social media, just us. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. 2 days without checking metrics or responding to comments felt like an eternity in our line of work. But looking at her, illuminated by the soft glow of my laptop screen, I knew she was right. We turned off our phones and retreated to a small cabin in the mountains outside Spokane. The isolation was liberating. Without cameras or audiences, we rediscovered each other in ways that couldn't be captured in any stream or post. "I've missed this," Imogen whispered, as we sat on the cabin's porch watching the rain. "Just being with you, no filters, no performance." The weekend became our sanctuary, a brief respite from the constant pressure of public visibility. We played chess without streaming, cooked without documenting, loved without worrying about who might be watching. But reality crashed back Monday morning with a series of urgent messages. One of my major clients, a conservative financial firm, had seen our latest content about our relationship. They were threatening to pull their account, citing concerns about brand alignment. "Let them go," Imogen said when I showed her the email. "You don't need clients who can't accept who you are." "It's not that simple," I argued, stress tightening my chest. "This account represents 20% of my agency's revenue." She took my hands in hers, her touch grounding me. "Then we'll figure it out together. Your authenticity is worth more than their money." That night, as thunder rolled outside my window, we had our most intense discussion yet about our future. The rain matched our emotions, starting soft and building to a crescendo. "I'm scared," I admitted, watching lightning illuminate the sky. "Not of losing clients, but of losing myself in all this, of losing us." Imogen moved closer, her warmth a contrast to the storm outside. "You won't lose me," she promised. "We're stronger than any algorithm or social media trend." What happened next was pure instinct, passion mixed with vulnerability. In the darkness of my bedroom, illuminated only by flashes of lightning, we found each other again. Every touch a reminder of what was real beyond the screens and cameras. The next morning, I made a decision. I sent an email to the financial firm, not apologizing for who I was or who I loved, but offering them a graceful way to end our contract. Their response surprised me. A reluctant acknowledgement that perhaps they needed to evolve with the times. Our relationship became a case study in navigating personal authenticity in the digital age. Followers appreciated our honest approach to balancing privacy with transparency. We shared enough to be real but kept our most precious moments for ourselves. "It's like chess," Imogen observed one evening, as we reviewed content plans. "Knowing which pieces to protect and which to advance." She was right. We'd learned to play defense when needed, protecting our private connection while still maintaining our public presence. The game had changed, but we were adapting, finding strength in our partnership. Our streaming numbers actually increased as we found this balance, viewers connecting with our authentic approach to relationship and career. But more importantly, we'd found a way to preserve what mattered most, our connection to each other. That rainy weekend became our template for maintaining sanity in the digital age. Once a month, we'd go offline completely, retreating to our mountain sanctuary where the only notifications were the sound of rain on the roof, and the only engagement metrics were the warmth in each other's eyes. In these moments, away from the cameras and comments, we remembered why we'd fallen for each other in the first place. It wasn't about content or followers or brand alignment. It was about two people who'd found each other across a chessboard and decided to play life's game together. The backlash started subtly at first. A few unfollows here, some passive-aggressive comments there. Then it escalated. One morning, I woke up to find 3 major brands had pulled their contracts from my agency overnight. They cited strategic differences, I told Imogen over breakfast, but their timing makes it pretty clear what this is really about. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. The morning sun streaming through my kitchen window caught her blonde hair, creating a halo effect that made my heart skip despite the circumstances. "Their loss," she said firmly. "You're the best in the business, Scarlett. Other brands will see that." She was right, but it didn't make the sting of rejection any less painful. Years of building professional relationships were being undone because some people couldn't handle seeing two women in love. The industry whispers grew louder. Former colleagues who used to sing my praises now avoided eye contact at networking events. Some even suggested I was leveraging my relationship with Imogen for views. Can you believe this? I scrolled through a particularly nasty email from a former client. "They're saying our chess streams are just a front for attention-seeking behavior." Imogen set down her coffee cup with more force than necessary. "Let them talk. Our numbers speak for themselves. And our community knows the truth." She was right about our community. While some doors closed, others opened. Younger, more progressive brands began reaching out, drawn to our authentic approach. Our joint streams continued to grow, attracting viewers who appreciated both our strategic insights and our genuine connection. One evening, after wrapping up a particularly successful stream, Imogen surprised me with an idea. What if we turned this discrimination into content? Not in a sensational way, but to show others they're not alone. We started sharing our experiences dealing with professional prejudice, weaving it into our chess metaphors and business advice. The response was overwhelming. Messages flooded in from followers facing similar challenges, thanking us for giving voice to their struggles. "Look at this," Imogen said one night, reading from her phone. "This woman started her own business after watching us stand up to the negativity. She says we gave her courage." It wasn't all positive transformation, though. The pressure of being role models while navigating our own relationship challenges was intense. Some nights, after particularly harsh comments or lost contracts, I'd find myself questioning everything. During one such moment of doubt, Imogen found me in my office, staring at a chessboard at midnight. Without a word, she sat across from me and made the first move. We played in silence for a while, the familiar rhythm of the game calming my nerves. Finally, she captured my bishop and looked up. "You know what makes chess beautiful? It doesn't care who's playing. The pieces move the same way regardless of who holds them." I smiled despite myself. "Are you really turning this into a metaphor?" "Maybe," she grinned. "Is it working?" Instead of answering, I leaned across the board and kissed her, knocking over several pieces in the process. The kiss was soft, familiar, yet still thrilling, a reminder of what really mattered. The next day, we filmed one of our most powerful streams yet. No chess, no strategies, just honest conversation about navigating prejudice in the digital age. We shared our fears, our struggles, and our determination to succeed on our own terms. The response was immediate and powerful. Supportive messages poured in from around the world. Other content creators began sharing their own stories. What started as discrimination had transformed into a movement. "See?" Imogen said later, as we cuddled on my couch, reading through the comments. "Sometimes the strongest moves come from being pushed into a corner." She was right, as usual. The opposition had forced us to be stronger, more authentic, more determined. We weren't just playing the game anymore, we were changing the rules. That night, as we lay together in the quiet darkness of my bedroom, I realized something important. The real victory wasn't in maintaining our careers or growing our platforms. It was in refusing to let anyone else dictate how we lived or loved. The decision to go public with our relationship had ripple effects we hadn't anticipated. Our separate brands had become inextricably linked in the public eye, and now we faced a crucial choice about our future direction. "We need to think bigger," Imogen said one evening, as we sat in my office reviewing our analytics. "Our individual channels are strong, but together we could build something revolutionary." She was right. The numbers showed that our collaborative content consistently outperformed our solo efforts, but merging our professional lives completely carried its own risks. What if it doesn't work out? I voiced the fear that had been nagging at me. What if mixing business with pleasure ruins everything? Imogen set down her laptop and moved to perch on my desk, her green eyes serious. "Scarlett, we're already mixing them, have been since that first chess match. The question is whether we're going to do it intentionally or keep pretending we're not." She had a point. Our attempt to maintain separate professional identities while being personally involved was becoming increasingly complicated. Brands wanted to work with us as a pair, and our audiences had essentially merged. That night, over wine and takeout, we started planning our future. The idea of creating our own social media agency, one that specialized in authentic storytelling and strategic content, began to take shape. We could focus on helping other content creators navigate their own authenticity journeys, Imogen suggested, sketching ideas on a napkin. Use our experience as a blueprint. The more we talked, the more excited I became. This wasn't just about combining our businesses, it was about creating something meaningful from our shared experiences. The planning phase was intense. Late nights turned into early mornings as we mapped out our vision. Our chess matches became strategy sessions, each move reflecting decisions about our future. Knight to e4, I said one evening, our game mirroring our conversation about business structure. What if we lose clients who aren't ready for our approach? Then we find new ones, Imogen countered, moving her bishop. Check. The right clients will appreciate what we're building. We decided to announce our plans through a joint live stream. The support was overwhelming, but so were the questions. How would we maintain our individual brands? Would our content change? What about our private life? We're not just creating a business, I explained to our viewers. We're building a platform for authentic voices in digital spaces. The transition wasn't smooth. Some followers accused us of selling out our relationship. Others worried we'd lose what made our individual content special. One particularly difficult evening, after reading yet another critical comment, I found Imogen in our home office, staring at old photos from our early days. Remember this? She asked, showing me a screenshot from our first chess stream together. We were so worried about keeping things professional. I smiled, settling beside her. Now look at us, planning a whole company around being ourselves. The weekend before we launched our new venture, we retreated to our mountain cabin. No phones, no planning sessions, just us and a chessboard. One last game as competitors? Imogen suggested, setting up the pieces. The game was long, complex, filled with the kind of strategic depth that had first drawn us together. But something was different. Every move felt like collaboration rather than competition. Checkmate, she finally declared, but her victory smile was soft. Ready to be partners in every sense? Looking at her across the board, I realized we already were. The lines between personal and professional, between competition and collaboration, had blurred long ago. Now we were just making it official. Back in Spokane, we finalized the paperwork for our new agency. The name we chose, Queen's Gambit Media, paid homage to where our story began. To new beginnings, Imogen raised her coffee cup the morning of our launch. And to authentic endings, I added, clinking my cup against hers. Our future was uncertain, but we'd learned to embrace that uncertainty together. After all, every great game of chess requires both careful planning and the courage to make bold moves. That evening, we filmed our first official content as business partners, the chessboard still prominently featured between us. Some things, we decided, were too important to change. Launching our own agency meant walking away from the security of my established client base. The morning I sent out my resignation letters to my remaining corporate clients, my hands trembled over the keyboard. You're doing the right thing, Imogen assured me, her hand steady on my shoulder as I hit send on the final email. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a few pieces to win the game. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. We converted my office into our agency headquarters, the chessboard taking pride of place in our main conference room. Our streaming schedule became more sporadic as we focused on building our business foundation. I miss our regular matches, Imogen admitted one night as we worked late, surrounded by business plans and marketing strategies. Remember when chess was just our excuse to spend time together? I looked up from my laptop, taking in her tired smile. How about now? One game before we tackle the next proposal? The familiar rhythm of moving pieces across the board centered us, bringing us back to what mattered most. We'd been so focused on building our professional future that we'd nearly forgotten to nurture our personal connection. Late that night, after a particularly intense game, Imogen surprised me with a suggestion. Move in with me, she said, resetting the chess pieces. My place is bigger, and it's closer to the office. The proposition caught me off guard. Despite spending most nights together anyway, making it official felt like a massive step. Are you sure? With everything else changing? She silenced my doubts with a kiss. I've never been more sure of anything. Moving in together while launching a business proved challenging. Boxes of my belongings mingled with client files and streaming equipment. Our personal and professional lives became even more intertwined, but somehow it felt right. The first major test of our new arrangement came when a potential investor expressed concern about our relationship. It's a liability, he said during a meeting. What happens to the company if you break up? Before I could respond diplomatically, Imogen spoke up. Our relationship is our strongest asset. It's the foundation of everything we're building. We didn't get his investment, but we gained something more valuable, a deeper appreciation for what we were creating together, both personally and professionally. One evening, after a successful pitch meeting, we found ourselves back at what was now our home, celebrating with takeout and chess. Remember when you first started streaming? Imogen asked, moving her queen across the board. You were so worried about maintaining your professional image. I laughed, studying the position. Now look at us, building an entire brand around being authentically ourselves. The transition wasn't always smooth. Some days, the stress of running a business together strained our relationship. Other days, our personal dynamics affected our professional decisions. But we learned to navigate these challenges together, using our chess matches as a way to reset and reconnect. Check, Imogen declared, her eyes sparkling with the same competitive spirit I'd fallen for months ago. I studied the board, seeing both the immediate threat and the beautiful strategy that had led to it. It was like looking at a metaphor for our relationship, complex moves coming together to create something remarkable. That night, as we lay in bed in what was now our shared bedroom, plans and possibilities swirling around us, I realized something profound. The security I'd been so afraid of losing by leaving my corporate clients had been replaced by something far more valuable, a partnership that encompassed every aspect of my life. What are you thinking about? Imogen murmured, half asleep beside me. About how sometimes the riskiest moves turn out to be the best ones, I replied, pulling her closer. The city lights twinkled outside our window, and somewhere in the distance, a clock struck midnight. We'd taken a leap of faith, choosing love over career security, only to find that together we could build something stronger than either of us could have achieved alone. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new games to play, new strategies to develop. But for now, in the quiet darkness of our shared home, every sacrifice we'd made felt worth it. 1 year. It seemed impossible that so much could change in just 12 months. Queen's Gambit Media had grown from a risky venture into a thriving agency, specializing in authentic digital storytelling. Our client list included progressive brands and influencers who shared our vision for genuine content. Look at this, I called to Imogen, scrolling through our latest analytics. Our case study video just hit 1 million views. She peered over my shoulder, her familiar scent enveloping me. Not bad for a couple of chess nerds who fell in love. Our anniversary was approaching, both personal and professional. We'd decided to mark the occasion with a special livestream event, returning to where it all began, the community center's chess room. Full circle, Imogen mused as we set up the equipment. Remember how nervous you were during your first tournament here? The room looked smaller than I remembered, but the memories felt larger than life. Every table held a story, especially the one where we'd first faced each other across the chessboard. The stream was planned as a celebration of our journey, complete with a ceremonial rematch of our first game. Our followers had been buzzing about it for weeks, but Imogen seemed distracted during setup. Everything okay? I asked, adjusting the lighting. Perfect. She smiled, but there was something different in her eyes, a mixture of nervousness and excitement I hadn't seen before. The stream began smoothly. We shared stories about our first meeting, the early days of our relationship, and the challenges we'd overcome building our agency. Our viewers filled the chat with supportive messages and memories of their own favorite moments from our content. As we approached the endgame, I noticed Imogen's hands trembling slightly as she moved her pieces. I was so focused on trying to read her unusual behavior that I almost missed the pattern she was creating on the board. Then I saw it. Her pieces were positioned to spell out words. My heart stopped as I deciphered the message, "Marry me?" The chat exploded as viewers realized what was happening, but I barely noticed. The world had narrowed to just us, just this moment. "Your move," Imogen said softly, pulling out a small velvet box from her pocket. My vision blurred with tears as I reached across the board, knocking over pieces in my haste to get to her. The kiss we shared was broadcast live to thousands, but it felt as private as our first. "Is that a yes?" she whispered against my lips. "Checkmate," I replied, making her laugh through her own tears. Later that night, after the stream ended, and congratulations poured in from around the world, we sat quietly in our favorite spot by the window. The chessboard between us held the final position our engagement game. "I can't believe you managed to keep this secret," I said, admiring the ring on my finger. "You're usually terrible at surprises." "I had help," she admitted. "The whole team was in on it, even the community center staff." We played one more game that night, just for us. No cameras, no audience, just two women who found love over a chessboard planning their future together. "What happens next?" I asked, as we got ready for bed. Imogen pulled me close, her green eyes bright with happiness. "We keep playing, keep building, keep loving, but now we're playing for the same team." The next morning, as we walked into our office, we were greeted by champagne and congratulations from our team. The chessboard in the conference room had been set up with white roses around it, the pieces arranged in the same pattern from our engagement game. Looking at Imogen across the celebration, I realized that what had started as a simple chess match had evolved into something far more beautiful than I could have imagined. We'd built a life together, piece by piece, move by move. The future stretched out before us like an infinite chessboard, full of possibilities and potential challenges. But now we would face them together, partners in every sense of the word. "Ready for our next game?" Imogen asked, taking my hand. I squeezed her fingers, feeling the new ring between our palms. "With you, always,"